Launching Leaders within Queensland Rugby is a really exciting moment for us. The concept is about sitting down and talking leadership with people connected to the Queensland Rugby Union in many different ways, from board members, commercial partners and donors, to former players, coaches and people connected with the community game. The series is brought to you by our official luxury hotel partner, Amora Brisbane. It's been a privilege to work with Rob, Nikki, Tessa and the Amora team this year, and we're so excited to continue working with them as presenting partner of Leaders within Queensland Rugby and the Amora Centreline Lounge on Queensland Reds Super Rugby game days in 2025. If you haven't checked out the beautifully refurbished Amora Brisbane, you need to. Whether you're travelling from overseas, interstate, within Queensland, or you're just wanting a staycation for that special occasion, Amora Brisbane is perfectly placed in the heart of the CBD. We've been thinking about the concept of leaders within Queensland Rugby for a long time, and to be able to bring it to life with 12 outstanding guests across 11 episodes was really enjoyable. Professor Mark Harvey is such an asset to QUT. He's a genuine people person, and I could really tell that he's empowered by helping young leaders develop and grow under his watch and trusting them to do the job that he's put them in place to do. I hope you enjoy this conversation with Mark Harvey about his leadership journey throughout his life and his career. Professor Mark Harvey, welcome to Leaders within Queensland Rugby. Can you tell me your connection currently, who you are, what you do, and your current connection with rugby?
Thanks, Pete. It's wonderful to be a part of this. So, I'm Professor Mark Harvey, and I'm the Vice-President Engagement at the Queensland University of Technology. And QUT is the educational partner for the QRU, and I'm the exec who oversees that relationship.
Now, we will delve into your love for rugby as we continue, but firstly, we want to talk about leadership and leadership principles. What does leadership mean to you, and what are your requirements as a leader day to day?
Yeah, thanks, Pete. Leadership to me is most people think about, the individual, but to me, it's, what is that framework of which a person within an organisation leads that organisation? And so to me, it's very much about having a clear strategy of where the organisation wants to go, or where the function that you perform in that organisation, where you wish to take that. And then it's using your skills, your knowledge, your expertise to work with the people around you to take them with you on that particular journey. And what's critical, I think, in leadership is that it's not solely about what you want, but really it is the collective. And so getting those people around you to be a part of setting the direction and then implementing and executing that strategy is absolutely critical.
You'd be familiar with the phrase natural born leaders. Would you consider yourself a natural leader, or is it something that's evolved over time for you?
To me, I think it's something that's certainly evolved over time. I grew up as a very shy individual, and so you would think to yourself that someone who is very shy would not be a natural leader at all. But over time, and I think in my 20s, I started to come out of my shell to a large degree, and then just through work, being put into those work environments, and it evolves. And I think one of the critical things too that most people do is they look around you and they look at other people, whether they be fellow colleagues in the same organisation, or they don't know, but see that leadership, people who lead other organisations, or just in the general community of who you associate with, and take on board the positives and the negatives, and so very much learn from them. And then bring that into your own style, if you like, or the way that you go about being a leader.
Do you recall any of those early leadership challenges, pitfalls, but also things that excited you about leading?
To me, if I look back at the influence that other people have had on me, I tend to forget the negatives, but the positives. So if I go back, I think one of the people I'd admired most in my career was when I was back in Canada. It was my boss over there, and he just had a very natural and genuine ways that he engaged with people, and he had a lot of rituals, and I think that was the thing too. He had things which were very much like a ritual the way he went about sort of doing things, and that was very engaging. And so that's probably one key thing that I'd have. And then when I came back to Brisbane a number of years ago, and I was working at another institution, and again one of the senior leaders of the university, again the rituals that they would do, and the way that they could send signals to many people or just to an individual, but the way that they would do. And I'll give you one quick example. There's one gentleman, and the way that he would take you with him is that when you enter his office, he'd get up from around his desk and he'd come over and sit at the small table and invite you to sit at the small table with him. Now, I think that was a real ritual of his, but you knew that when he did that you were in the slipstream to a large degree, and it was like a big coup. You know, I'd go back to my office with my fellow colleagues and I'd say, hey, such and such, I'm now sitting at the little table with him and not across from the desk.
Thanks to Amora Brisbane, presenting partner of Leaders Within Queensland Rugby. Experience luxury reimagined at the Amora Hotel Brisbane, where you'll find a truly unique experience. Book your stay today at amorahotels.com. Is that a practice you now employ, or are there other rituals that are a part of your leadership style?
Yeah, that is something. I'm also one of the key things I'm absolutely determined to do is never stay in my office and take meeting after meeting in my office. The natural part of my role is actually to meet lots and lots of people and then build those relationships and according. And so I spend a lot of time outside of my office in coffee shops. Actually, a couple of the coffee shops on campus are really more my office than when I am in a building. So I think that's absolutely critical as well. And also too, in when I have internal meetings with various members of my team, and that I think a good practice is not sit across from the desk and have that half an hour chat with them, but get up and walk them over to a coffee shop and sit across it, because to me it signals that you're equals, and at the end of the day we are all equals, even though there may be I'm a senior exec in an organisation, and then someone at a more junior role sitting in a coffee shop at equals, and that doesn't mean that the conversation is not an important one or not a serious one, but I think it gets the conversation off and really signals to the interview that I value them taking the time, etc., breaking from the mold accordingly. So that's I think an important pillar, I think, in my leadership style. Another one is taking people with you, and whenever I get a group of people, I'm not a great believer in go, hey, this is the strategy, this is where we're going, these are all the moving pieces, but having lots of informal conversations, getting a sense of the direction, and then giving people the question is, what does good look like? Where do we want to be in 3 and 5 years from now? Let's get that right, and then through that conversation, getting people to and it's a great exercise too, because of the informality of it as well. People really do engage, and they and a whiteboard. I'm a great believer in whiteboard. So start throwing some ideas up, and then you take a sit back and go, well, if I'm going to summarise this, this is where we want to go, and then you get the nodding of the table, and through that natural process, they've bought into it, and they can actually see their words and their direction now up on the screen. And then, that doesn't mean that you accept everything that's there. You might say, hey, look, that's a good idea, but, I don't think that's achievable or whatever. But at the end of the day, you do that. And that's the first and foremost. And once you've got where you want to go, then it's okay. Well, what are those levers that we pull? We're going to do that. What are things, that we're going to do? What are the things that we're not going to do? What are the things we're going to do more of? What are the things we're going to do less of? And give that framework. And again, back out to the group as well. And then you naturally chip in with your bits and pieces into that. And then after about half an hour, 40 minutes, you're there, you go, well, we've got a direction where we go, we've got our goals, okay, what do the KPIs look like? Well, okay, we've got those. Now we've got the plan sitting underneath it, the things we're going to do more or less, stop, start, accordingly. And I think, after that short period of time, we've got a plan to do that. And then all that process, what I've done is provided that framework and led the group of people to where we want to go, as an organisation or as an organisational unit, and they've been a part of the journey. To me, that's leadership.
It's a people-first leadership principle. The obvious question, what happens when you either don't get that buy-in, you don't get the nods around the table, or also when you have to have the difficult conversations?
Yeah, really good question, Pete. I think there's a couple of elements to that. Is that what's critical is to have the right people around the table, the right people in the organisation, and through whatever process that you go to in any organisation, you will end up with those who should be a part of the Go Forward team and those who aren't. And then what you've got to do is encourage those who you see are a part of the Go Forward, team and being part of the team, and make sure that they know about it. That's absolutely critical. And those who aren't and don't want to be a part of it, well, then you need to be able to manage that effectively. I've been involved in, several organisations, during my career, and I think one of the poor things that many people do is that they tolerate non-performance, and you can't have a high-performing organisation or organisational unit where you got non-performers, and not only do the non-performers non-perform, but they can create an environment where those who are wanting to perform and wanting to take the organisation form, they will hold them back. So as a leader as well, it's driving the organisation, taking the team with you, but also being able to effectively manage those who aren't on board.
Do you often evaluate your own performance as a leader and look to upskill in the space?
Yeah, I would classify myself as probably a more of an emotional person, with intuition, and I like to think, and I think I do, is ask people around me for feedback, and what's important in that is actually to build trust, particularly if you're getting feedback. And I think actually getting feedback from those that report through to you or are more junior in the organisation, getting that feedback is absolutely critical. So I know by building trust then with people around, so they can freely say, hey, you got that one wrong, or, maybe you're being a little bit tough, or, maybe you missed that. I think is absolutely critical. And having said all that, though, I have been very fortunate. I think I've got a bunch of people around me who either report to me and they tell me exactly how it is, and I don't mean, once every 6 months. I mean, if I need to be told every second day, I get told every second day. And I love that about the organisation.
Like most leaders, you've got a lot of commitments with your role, whether it be functions, events in the evenings, a lot of travel. How do you maintain a good work-life balance and duties outside of work?
I think what's critical is that there's always more things to do than you have time. So absolutely critical in your work life is priorities, and go back to that strategy where you want to go, and take the organisation and take people with you, and you have to prioritise, what drives the organisation or what's taking the organisation in those areas, and then leave other things behind in order to be able to do that. So I think that's absolutely critical. So that's the work, and then with the work-life balance is 5 o'clock on a Friday until Monday morning 8 a.m. is my time, and I think that's absolutely critical to be with my family and friends. I mean, that means, sometimes there are, work things and work commitments on a weekend, but I would say I jealously guard my downtime, and I don't think you're a good employee, if you expect people to, work 24/7. People get burnt out. They're not at their optimum performance. I mean, if you take athletes can't train every day, etc. They won't be the optimum performance. And I think as humans, we're also very much along those sorts of lines.
Your connection to rugby, you spoke about leading QUT's partnership with the Queensland Rugby Union, but it's a lifelong passion for you. Tell me a little bit about your overall connection to the game.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think first to say from the university perspective, there are a host of sports and sporting organisations that we proudly support. And from my perspective, obviously the QRU and the Reds are a part of that. I go back to my school days. I actually grew up playing football, playing soccer, and then I went to a high school that was really into rugby, and then the bug bit really hard then, and so I played a little bit in the last year or so of my schooling, and then a year or two out of school. But study was pretty important, and so that's sort of where I ended up. But I've been a really passionate rugby supporter since then, and I've got my wife and I got 4 kids, and our girls play touch football, and both my sons played a lot of rugby during school, and then my older boy Tom was a really good sevens player, and so we spent a lot of time following him around and watching him play sevens. And in the mix of that, all my mates are into rugby, so yeah, I've been following the Reds and coming to the Reds games for decades now. And it's funny, where I'm sitting now, and I'm looking across over the fellow stand and the stand across the row there, and I can see the row of seats that we held for about a decade.
What excites you about the future of rugby in Queensland and Australia?
I really feel this year, the last couple of years were really tough, and it culminated in end of last year being really tough at the World Cup. I just feel there's an absolute bounce back, and I was at the Wales game, last Friday night, and it was fever pitch stuff, and caught up with a bunch of mates last night at my weekly tennis match, and they were all commenting at just what a great game of rugby it was against Wales, and how that symbolised where the QRU and where the Reds are, where the Reds are going. So I think the future's just going to get brighter and brighter, and we've hit the troubled times, and I just see nothing but positivity coming forward. And I think a lot of that too, and hats off to the QRU. I think the leadership that the QRU displayed in the last year or so has been admired and has been recognised, and so put that on the table as well. And also our interactions, Pete, my personal interactions, it's just such a great vibe, working with the QRU and the management here. And so I think that there are good people in the right positions in a great organisation, and when you get that right, things are going to look really, really positive. And again, the Reds have been a good team over the last few years, and I think Brad Thorne did a really good job. And then with Les coming in on board, and as I said just recently, and Les is always the first person to recognise the platform that Brad gave him, and he's absolutely executed with that platform. And I think it's been a fantastic year for the Reds, and performance-wise on the pitch. And then as a person that's from a large organisation, and our brand is very important to us, and so a cultural match. I think the culture here at the QRU and the Reds is absolutely superb, and that includes the whole organisation, the men's and women's teams, and from all the folks that I've met is I think the place is in a great shape.
Professor Mark Harvey, thanks for joining Leaders Within Queensland Rugby.
Thanks, Pete.
Thanks for listening to Leaders Within Queensland Rugby, proudly presented by Amora Hotel Brisbane. Head to Apple Podcasts and Spotify to subscribe and get a new episode every week. Or if you can't wait that long, head to the Queensland Reds YouTube page to see all the episodes in one place.